Hello, welcome to this week's Dear Love Talk, and this segment is dedicated to answer any question you may have regarding your love life. So do feel free to get in touch with us. The email address is questions@lovetalkshow.tv, or you can get in contact via our Facebook page.
Indeed, there isn't much more to add, and the first question is for you.
That's right. So the first question comes from Chris, and he says, "Hi guys, I'm writing to you with a really heavy heart." Well, it's a Chris. And she says, "My husband despises me, calls me a witch,
Wow.
and other horrible names."
Where's the buzzer?
Wait, let me finish the question first.
I want to press the buzzer now.
We got married because I got pregnant when we were dating, and I can't cope at the moment. I have no strength anymore to know what to do with this marriage. Go ahead, Len.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I think there are some questions that come in that they're very clear-cut, and the advice is very straightforward. And from what you said on this question, it seems like there is a lot of verbal abuse going on, if not physical. So there seems to be verbal and even emotional abuse going on. And my advice to you, if you are currently in this situation and this is bringing you down so much, is that, you know, I cannot tell you leave him or stay with him. But certainly, I don't think you should be in a relationship where you are treated the way that you are being treated.
I agree with what you said, with what you just said. And I also want to remind you, okay, that your child is going to grow to become a young, is that a young woman or young man? I don't know. And do you think that child, your child, will be happy to see your husband calling you names, abusing you? Do you think that it's going to be a good thing? I don't think so. And chances are, like I always say, the child will grow to think that it's okay to be abused. It's normal because mommy was abused.
Or if not, if the child doesn't grow up thinking it's okay, at least she will grow up surely traumatized somehow, and that will affect her somehow on some level.
Exactly.
So our advice for you, Chris, is that you muster up some courage and you make a decision to leave that relationship that is being abusive, that is destructive. You know, and
You
some
deserve
people,
better than that.
Yeah, and you know, Lena, some people say, well, but I know that deep down he loves me. You know, you cannot love someone or something and kick that person to the ground at the same time. It's impossible. When you love someone or something, and I say something because there are people who love their pets, who love their job more than they love someone they say they love. And when you love someone, you do not kick the person down. You do not put them down. You help them.
You know, Chris, I think you need to value yourself. You need to, maybe it's the first time you are hearing someone saying that to you. And, you know, each one of us have a value. You have a value. What's your value? I am sure that you are worth a lot more than this. So, yeah, I think you should make some sort of decision.
And by the way, don't be deceived by the thought that if you do start a life without him, that you don't have a future. That's wrong. You do have a future. And
there's a lot of support out there these days for
absolutely.
single mothers.
And not only that, but your future without someone who is abusing you is a lot better than with someone who's hurting you like that.
I agree.
Okay? Now, usually Elena answers the second question, but because this comes from a man as well who sent us a question on Facebook, I'll answer the second one.
I'll get to give my opinion as well.
And then I'll leave the last one for you.
No problem.
So let's get right on to the next question here. And it says, "Hi guys, I love your program." Thank you. "I've been married for a couple of years and I love my wife. But I have a problem with anger and sometimes I say things I don't mean. What can I do to have control over what I say?" Well, one thing you've already done right, which is to realize that this is a problem. And no matter, you know, if you do come back to the person and say, "Look, I'm sorry about what I did," even if you do that, it doesn't make it okay. So the fact that you've already realized you have a problem, this is great because it means you can now work on the problem. And I think the most important thing to remember is that you can control your anger. In fact, you can control any emotion. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. I think one of the biggest mistakes people make, Helena, is to think, oh, this anger is stronger than I am, or it's impossible to control. Of course you can control it.
You know, these days there's a name for every condition, you know, and when they don't diagnose the condition, they say you suffer from anxiety. That's a new one for me. You know, I'm not saying that people with conditions, they're not real conditions, because the doctors know what they do. But sometimes, you know, think with me, before that condition came along, you know, there was a time where it was quite trending to say, oh, I have an anger problem because of movies. You know, remember the anger management movie and everything. I mean, before that came up, what did people used to do, people who had that problem? You just have to do the same thing you need to do today, which is to, first of all, acknowledge you have the problem and change. Because the thing with anger is you can really regret your actions, and then they can't be, you can't go back on your words, you can't go back on your actions. Even if you say sorry, it can be really devastating.
We just have to make a note. I understand the example Helena gave, but it's important to make a note that anxiety is a real problem, it's a real issue. But what we want to say is this. Number one, you can control your anger. You can, okay? Now, here's two things that I want you to know before we finish. Number one, if you say something that you later regret, if you say something that hurt your wife and you regret it later, it's no good regretting because the damage has been done. So you need to rein that in. You need to learn to rein that anger in. You have to control it because there is no excuse for behavior of that nature. There's nothing in this world that can excuse that. That is wrong. And that leads me to the second point. The second point is that the fact that you say I can't control my anger does not make it okay. It's not okay. And you have to know that this is not okay. It's not excusable to lash out, to say things you shouldn't be saying. This is condemnable, it's wrong, and you need to stop. And you need to stop because you can stop.
Imagine if your partner was the one being having that problem with you. Like we said, there are conditions out there that make people be very angry. But you've got to seek help. You've got to do what you need to do, control your emotions, learn, you know, maybe it's a stress problem. Maybe you need to, you know, control your stress levels. Maybe it's a matter of you talking about how you feel more often so that you don't just explode from time to time. You know, there's a lot of things you can do. And like you said, you can't unsay words that you say or undo actions that you take.
And don't say, well, I get angry, but at least I feel bad about it. No, it's not okay. You do not have the right to do that. But at least you recognize you have a problem. And if you work with what we told you today, I believe that you can overcome that.
Indeed. Now, the next question is for myself, and it's from Jessica Ruiz. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. And it says, hi Helena, my question is very different. I have a good relationship with my husband, but my mother-in-law is a very difficult person to deal with, and I don't know how to go about building a good relationship with her. What's your advice?
Yeah, this one is really for you to answer.
It's not difficult. Think with me. I love my mother-in-law like my mom. She, you know, I hope she doesn't see me say that, hears me say that, because she'll get jealous. But it's all about you understanding, first of all, who she is. She's your husband's mother, which means there's a lot of attachment. You know, imagine you have a son or a daughter. You nurtured your daughter. You did everything for that child. You saw the child grow and develop and become a doctor, whatever. So there is a lot of attachment. So sometimes it's difficult to let go, especially if it's you know, a boy, I would say. It's usually hard. So much so that usually men don't have problems with their mother-in-law.
Usually, you know, it's the wife that has a problem with the mother-in-law, and the husband has a problem with the father-in-law.
Exactly.
Right.
But it's more typical, you know, for women to have a problem with the husband's mom. Now, that's my first step, and it works. You've got to humble yourself. Be humble and not just think that, you know, he's my husband now, you married me, not your mom, so cut her off. You can't just ask him to do that. Would you do that? Would you cut your mom off? No, you wouldn't. So you need to be more understanding, more mature. And then you need to understand her actions. You need to, become friends. All she wants is that you look after her son really well. And wait. And that you become friends so that she knows that it's like this. When you become friends with someone, you have more control over the situation. You don't have to be very, ask questions all the time. You kind of know that she's looking, that she will kind of know that you are looking after her son because of the conversations you have. She will get to know how you are as a person. So that will give her peace.
Time out. But we have to say that
What do you mean time out?
No, listen, there are wives who have serious problems with their mother-in-laws. There are mother-in-laws that unfortunately are a little too difficult to deal with.
Well, if we had 4 more minutes for this question, I would definitely give you another advice for that one.
This advice that you gave is perfect, but I'm saying that why? Because sometimes it's important that you really have patience, right? Sometimes it takes time to win the person over. So be patient. This advice that Helena gave, it will not change that relationship overnight. It takes time.
Actually, this should start from the dating period.
Indeed.
If you really like the guy, you should make sure you win her over already.
Indeed. But, this is a person who's married and is having problems now. So be patient because, don't do what Helena said for a week and then quit if it doesn't work. No. Because sometimes you need to...
It's a lifelong project.
It's a project. Hopefully that she will turn around before this being a lifelong project. Hopefully she'll turn around soon, but don't give up, okay? Win that person over. She's part of... In fact, without that person, your husband wouldn't exist.
Exactly.
Okay?
And never say that she's not never badmouth his mother.
Well, we hope that's been helpful. Remember, if you want to get in touch and send us your questions, do so on questions@lovetalkshow.tv.
Indeed. Remember to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and like our page on Facebook.